One album, 3 alternate covers, each layered with clues and hidden meanings. Prepare to have your mind blown as I break down the Easter eggs laid out for Taylor Swift's newest album, The Tortured Poets Department.
Tortured Poets is an album that I think more than any of my albums that I've ever made, I needed to make it.
With clues hidden everywhere, in the name, the theme, each alternate cover and leading theories for what they mean, the surprise songs on tour that she played after each of those announcements. They speak volumes, and what we can glean from the track listing. We are so lucky that Taylor Swift decided to become a pop star instead of a serial killer because we would never catch her. The way her mind works is wild. Hey there, I'm Blake. The album title is Taylor's longest yet, The Tortured Poets Department. Sounds more like a Lana Del Rey album than a Taylor album, which is fitting because Jack Antonoff produces them both, and Taylor has called Lana the artist having the most impact on pop music today, the most influence. So it would not be a surprise at all that she was taking some inspiration from her. Therein lies clue number 1, too, right off the bat, the title. In a 2020 interview with Variety, Joe Alwyn revealed he has a group chat with fellow actors Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott called
It's either the Tortured or the Lonely. Tortured Man Club, I think.
Oh yeah, probably, yeah.
You,
Me and Andrew.
Even Alwyn himself acknowledges, yeah, this is about him. He says it's undeniably a reference to their time together, according to his friends who spoke to the Daily Mail. But they went on to say that Joe would be very surprised if Taylor released any details about their split. He feels it'd be shady to diss him in any way, given that he has remained so silent. I'm gonna say fat chance on that one, Joe, but you know what? It's nice to dream.
My brand new album.
Taylor announced the new album at the Grammys upon winning her 13th career Grammy. Immediately after, she posted the cover with the caption, "All's fair in love and poetry." Sorry, Joe. She then flew to Tokyo, where she gave some insight into the timeline in which this album was written and created.
Right after I turned in Midnight, I started working on it immediately after that, and I kept working on it throughout the US tour.
It would have been summer of 2022 is when she started writing the album, and it continued until, well, a few months before this album release would have been January, probably. And talk about a consequential year and a half. Wow. You have Midnight's come out in October. In March, the Eras Tour begins. Then her split from Joe Alwyn goes public in April after she starts dating Matty Healy, the bad boy rebound. September is when her relationship with Travis Kelce goes public for the first time, but we know it started in August. Taylor's named Person of the Year in January of 2024, and then we have the announcement. So a lot happened in this short year and a half span of time. A lot more than just the breakup with Joe Alwyn. So I'm interested to see, despite Heartbreak being kind of the obvious theme of this album, how much she delves into maybe other aspects of her life during this time. Ahead of the album's release, Taylor dropped 5 playlists to Apple Music that confirm the biggest clue yet, which correlates all of the album's alternate covers to the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Taylor refers to them as the 5 stages of heartbreak.
Tortured Poets is an album that I think more than any of my albums that I've ever made, I needed to make it. It was really a lifeline for me. The things I was going through, the things I was writing about, it kind of reminded me of why songwriting is something that actually gets me through my life.
So the original album cover Taylor is referring to as the manuscript, which leads us to our first alternate cover, The Bolter, announced in Melbourne, Australia.
That cover is so tortured, so poetic.
Before we dive into the alternate covers here, don't forget to like the video and share it if you want. Also subscribe to follow along as I recap each country visited on the Eras Tour. I'm talking all the surprise songs, highlights, mistakes, and how each country is welcoming Taylor each step of the way. So those are up now. The whole Asia leg is up, and same with South America, as we've seen some just incredible shows. And with that plug out of the way, let's get back to the Bolter edition here. A lot of people think the Bolter could be referring to a viral video of she and Joe bolting to a waiting car after the 2022 VMAs. Certainly possible. Joe hated the cameras, so it could be referencing that. There's an Australian definition of the word bolter. She released it in Australia, remember? That is an outsider in a contest or race, or historically an escaped convict. So we could be seeing a jail theme come up here. Initially, some fans speculated that it was referring to a bar in London called The Bolter, where supposedly Joe and Taylor had their first date. That has been debunked. That bar didn't open till much later, so it wasn't even open during the time of their relationship. So that is not true. The surprise song after the Bolter announcement was You're Losing Me, which is a vault track off Midnight.
I've never played this song live before. It's one of my favorites.
And I wouldn't marry me either. Pathological people pleaser. Only wanted you to see her. and I'm fading, thinking, do something.
You're Losing Me was apparently written, according to Jack Antonoff, during the original recording sessions for Midnights and held as a vault track, which tells me that they were on the rocks, that was at least, 9 months before they broke up? So my theory is they were already on the rocks. Taylor wrote this song and put it in the vault, so to speak, our metaphorical vault, and said, you know what, I'll release it if we end up breaking up. And if we stay together, then it'll never see the light of day. And we all know what happened then.
I can't find a post, my heart won't stop anymore. This is an alternate cover.
The second alternate cover is called the Albatross. It was revealed in Sydney, and an albatross is a large seabird known to travel for years without ever touching the ground. Many sources I looked up say actually up to 6 years, the length of her and Joe's relationship.
This could reference, her having to fly back and forth over the Atlantic Ocean to keep their relationship going, with Joe living in London.
Also, what does Taylor's dress from the Grammy Awards look like? An albatross, would you say? It was the 66th Grammy Awards, keeping with the 6th theme there for the length of her relationship, and Taylor's re-recording her first 6 albums. Definition of an albatross, according to Merriam-Webster, is something that causes persistent deep concern or anxiety, or something that greatly hinders accomplishment.
Or both, in the case of Joe Alwyn, if you ask me. This is where things get crazy. The surprise song played after the Albatross announcement was Coney Island.
I'm sitting on a bench in Coney Island, wondering where my baby goes.
In 1903, a fire destroyed Coney Island, and it started at the Albatross Hotel. Apparently, it was started by a man who was infatuated with this woman who was not infatuated with him, instead was infatuated with the hotel's owner. So I guess he just burned the hotel down. That's one solution. And that's not all. The Albatross Hotel was located in the Bowery section of Coney Island, which is where a lot of the amusement park rides were. Do you remember Joe Alwyn's pen name on Folklore? William Bowery. So talk about a metaphor. I think we are burning down Coney Island, burning down the Bowery, William Bowery. And just to top it off, cherry on top, Joe Alwyn, William Bowery, co-wrote Coney Island, burning it all down. The third alternate cover, The Black Dog, was revealed in Singapore, and the black dog is apparently a very popular metaphor for depression. It's used to help people visualize a big black dog, like looming over them from behind always, to help people visualize depression and help family members understand what people are going through. In English folklore, it is an omen of death. And then, with track listings like So Long London, we have, the death of her relationship with Joe Alwyn. There's another track on the album called Clara Bow, who was a 1920s silent film actor. She famously owned a black dog and wrote it a 3-page eulogy, which would be the most Taylor thing ever. So, surprise songs played after were Clean and Evermore, which of course, represent kind of the end of a long journey, but they also represent healing. So this album may not be all, anger and heartbreak. I think we're going to get a little bit of healing here as well. Which, with the 5 stages of grief or heartbreak, acceptance is the 5th, so that would make sense. Now, we have only seen 4 covers so far, despite there being 5 stages of grief or heartbreak, so it is possible that we still have one more to be released. Even though there are 5 versions of the playlist there, Taylor actually used 2 images from the Bolter edition to round that out, so there very well could be a 5th version coming. The track listing has collaborations with Post Malone and Florence and the Machine, which is very exciting. Let's dive into the track listings here. Fortnight is the song with Post Malone. Fortnight is a British term meaning 2 weeks. Not sure what that references specifically, but British term, of course, Joe Alwyn. Another nod to Joe Alwyn is in So Long London there. Track 5s tend to be heart-wrenching and revealing historically, and Taylor's admitted that. She puts her most vulnerable songs there oftentimes, so this could very well be one of the more revealing songs on the track list. It's also the longest song on the album, and it serves as a contrast to London Boy on Lover. Track 6, titled But Daddy, I Love Him, could be a reference to The Little Mermaid. Ariel famously says that before giving up her voice to walk on land to go meet her prince, This could absolutely be a metaphor for Taylor having to give up a public side of her, her career, because Joe Alwyn was so private and didn't like, being followed by the cameras, didn't like how famous she was. It could be a metaphor for her having to give up a part of herself in order to be with Joe. And not to throw a wrench into things, but Harry Styles apparently wore a shirt with that very same phrase on it, and he turned down the role of Prince Eric in the movie The Little Mermaid, the live-action remake. So some fans are speculating that this song could actually be about him. Or maybe it's about both of them. I don't know. Those are great clues, though. Track 7, Fresh Out of the Slammer, likely another metaphor for breaking free of that relationship. Taylor uses a similar metaphor in Ready For It, singing, "And he can be my jailer, Burton to this tailor. Every love I've known in comparison is a failure," you know? So, rounding out that jail metaphor with her now being an escapee, fresh out of the slammer. That reference in Ready For It is Elizabeth Taylor and her ex Richard Burton, and jumping ahead to track 10, they starred together in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, so that could be a reference to that. Track 8, Florida, with 3 exclamation points, with Florence and the Machine. Tampa, Florida was Taylor's first stop on the Eras Tour after news of the breakup went public. It's also the stop where she swapped out on the set list Invisible String for The One. Invisible String, of course, referencing all sorts of things about their relationship, a love song. And then The One being a song about the one who got away. So Florida could be referencing Tampa in some way. Track 9 and 11 could be referencing Matty Healy, potentially, as the bad boy, rebound. Because he was in all sorts of trouble and dragged Taylor into it. So that could definitely be about that. Track 12, LOML, if you are a millennial like me and have no idea what that means. It stands for Love of My Life, I guess, in shorthand text. Love of My Life. Track 13, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, may mean continuing on tour with a broken heart. Keep performing, keep going forward. And The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, track 14. I read an interesting theory about this, that it could actually be a political song about Donald Trump instead of about Joe Alwyn, which would make more sense. I don't think Taylor would say something that harsh about someone she was dating for 6 years. It seems a little petty and mean, but she would say it about Donald Trump. So, and then lastly, we have Clara Bow. Bow became a starter in the 1920s, silent film era. She's widely known as the first it girl, and apparently later in life she struggled with mental health issues and became increasingly reclusive. She had a hard time with the massive amount of fame she had. Clara Bow's personal life and romantic life were much speculated about. So a lot of people are thinking that song is going to be a reminder of the cost of fame and public scrutiny. So those are the leading theories on the Tortured Poets department. It is one of Taylor's longest albums, clocking in at 1 hour and 5 minutes. It is the same length as Red, off just by a second, actually. Going back to that Tokyo speech for a minute, right after the Grammys and this announcement for this album, Taylor responded to critics who say, "Why do you release so many albums?" Like she does release a lot of albums.
I love doing this. I know I keep saying that, but that's because it's true. Everyone's like, "Why do you make so many albums?" I'm like, man, because I love it. I love it so much. I'm having fun. Leave me alone.
Again, don't forget to like this video and share your comments if you have any other theories or you want to expand on my own about the Tortured Poets department, Taylor's 11th studio album.